Captain Yuna Kong stood on the bridge of the Stellar Harmony, staring at the main screen. Her coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but she did not notice. The thing floating in space before them was impossible. "Run the scan again," she said to her. "Crew." "Captain, we have run it 12 times already," replied Lieutenant Sun Ho Lee from his station. "The readings are the same every time," Yuna nodded slowly. The ship in front of them was huge, much bigger than any coalition vessel. It was dark and silent, drifting in the empty space between stars. But that was not what made it impossible. The impossible part was that it should not exist. "Dr. Lim, what do you think?" Yuna asked. Dr. Taiho Lim looked up from his tablet. His eyes were wide with excitement. "Captain, this is the discovery of a lifetime. Look at those curves. See how the metal seems to flow like water? This is Veltar technology, I am sure of it." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew about the Veltar. They were legends. Stories told to young aliens about a race so advanced they had vanished into myth. Most people thought they were just stories. "The Veltar died out 10,000 years ago," said Commander Sora Nam, "if they ever existed at all." "They existed," Dr. Lim said firmly. "And this proves it. Look at the biometal construction. See how it seems alive? Only the Veltar could build like this." Yuna studied the ship on the screen. It was beautiful in a strange way. The hull curved and twisted like a living thing. Parts of it looked like metal, but other parts looked almost like bone or shell. Green lights pulsed slowly along its surface, like a sleeping heartbeat. "What is it doing out here?" she asked. "Just drifting," said Lieutenant Lee. "No power signature. Except for those lights. No movement. It looks dead." "Not dead," Dr. Lim corrected. "Sleeping. The Veltar built their ships to last forever. This one is waiting. Waiting for what?" Dr. Lim shrugged. "Who knows? But we need to find out." 2 hours later, Yuna led a team aboard the alien ship. They had docked with the Stellar Harmony easily. Too easily. The ship's airlock had opened for them without any commands. It was like it wanted them to come inside. The corridors were dark except for the green lights that pulsed in the walls. The air was breathable, which was another mystery. How did a ship that had been dead for thousands of years still have good air? "Incredible," whispered Dr. Lim, running his hands along the walls. "The biometal is still active. It is responding to touch." Engineer Wubin Choi was not as impressed. He had been trying to interface with the ship's systems for an hour with no success. "I cannot understand any of this," he said, frustrated. "My tools do not work. The ship will not talk to our computers." "Keep trying," Yuna ordered, but after 6 hours they had made no progress. The ship remained a mystery. They could walk through it, but they could not understand it. The walls glowed when they touched them, but the ship would not respond to any of their commands. "It is like it is waiting for something," Dr. Lim said as they took a break. "Some kind of signal or code?" "Or maybe it is just broken," suggested Commander Nam. "No," Dr. Lim shook his head. "This ship is not broken. It is perfect. Too perfect. That might be the problem." Back on the Stellar Harmony, Yuna sat in her quarters and thought about their options. They had found the greatest discovery in galactic history, but they could not do anything with it. The ship was there, waiting, but they could not wake it up. She opened her communication device and scrolled through her contacts. There had to be someone who could help them. Someone who understood strange technology. Then she saw a name that made her pause. Jinho Park, human mechanic. Yuna had met Jinho 2 years ago when her ship had broken down in the Outer Rim. Coalition engineers had said the damage was too severe to fix. They would need to wait months for parts. But Jinho had looked at the problem for 10 minutes and fixed it with spare parts from his junk pile. "Humans," she said to herself, "they fix things differently." Most species in the Coalition thought humans were primitive. Their technology was basic compared to advanced races. But Yuna had seen something that others missed. Humans did not just fix machines. They understood them in a way that was hard to explain. She made the call. "Jinho, this is Captain Yuna Kong. I have a job for you." "Captain Kong." Junho's voice was cheerful. What broke this time? Something that has been broken for 10,000 years. Can you come to the Andromeda sector? I will pay you well. There was a pause. 10,000 years? What did you find out there? A Veltar warship, and we cannot turn it on. Another pause, longer this time. A real Veltar ship? Not just stories? Very real, very big, very dead. Can you help us? Jinho laughed. Captain, I have never met a machine I could not fix. Send me the coordinates. I will be there in 3 days. Yuna ended the call and leaned back in her chair. Dr. Lim would not like this. Bringing a human to study the greatest archaeological find in history seemed wrong to most people. But Yuna had a feeling that normal rules did not apply here. The Veltar ship was waiting for something? Maybe it was waiting for someone who thought differently. Someone who did not try to understand everything before fixing it. Someone human, outside her window. The ancient ship drifted in space, its green lights pulsing like a slow heartbeat. Waiting, 3 days later, Jinho Park would arrive, and everything would change. Jinho Park stepped off his small transport ship and onto the docking bay of the Stellar Harmony. He carried only one bag, a worn leather case filled with tools that most engineers would call junk. But these tools had fixed more impossible problems than any fancy coalition equipment. Captain Yuna Kong met him at the airlock. Jinho, thank you for coming so quickly. No problem, Captain, Jinho said with a smile. I brought my best tools. Where is this mystery ship? Dr. Taiho Lim stepped forward. He looked unhappy. Captain, are you sure about this? This is the most important discovery in galactic history. Should we really trust it to a human? Jinho finished with a grin. Do not worry, Doctor. I will be very careful with your old ship. Dr. Lim's face turned red. It is not just an old ship, it is Veltar technology. It is beyond anything we understand. That is why we need Jinho, Captain Yuna said firmly. Our best engineers have tried everything, nothing works. Engineer Wubin Choi joined them, carrying a case of scanning equipment. The ship will not respond to any of our interfaces, he told Jinho. We have tried quantum resonance, bioneural networks, even basic electrical connections. Nothing, Jinho nodded. Sometimes the old ways work better than the new ways. What old ways? Wubin asked. Humans barely had space flight when the Veltar were building ships like this. Exactly, Jinho said. We learned to fix things with our hands, not with computers. Commander Sora Nam looked skeptical. The Veltar were the most advanced race in galactic history. Their technology is beyond anything we can imagine. What makes you think human methods will work? Jinho picked up his tool case. Only one way to find out. An hour later, the team stood at the entrance to the Veltar ship. The airlock had opened for them again, just like before. The green lights pulsed in the walls, casting strange shadows. Stay. Close, Captain Yuna ordered. We do not know how safe this place is. They walked through corridors that seemed to breathe. The walls curved and flowed like water made solid. Sometimes the floor would shift slightly under their feet, adjusting to their weight. The air smelled clean but strange, like metal and flowers mixed together. Incredible, Dr. Lim whispered. The biometal is responding to our presence. It knows we are here. Wubin set up his equipment at a junction of corridors. I will try again to interface with the ship's systems, he said. He connected cables and turned on his machines. Lights blinked and screens showed complex data, but nothing happened. The ship ignored all of his attempts to communicate. The quantum resonance is not working, Wubin said, frustrated. The ship is not responding to any of our protocols. Dr. Lim tried his own equipment. He had devices that could speak to almost any computer system in the galaxy. But the Veltar ship was silent. Maybe the ship is too damaged, suggested Commander Nam. No, Dr. Lim shook his head. Look at these walls. They are perfect. This ship is not damaged. It is just ... sleeping. While the others worked with their machines, Jinho walked around the corridor. He touched the walls gently, feeling the smooth surface. The biometal was warm under his fingers. What are you doing? Wu Bin asked. Listening, Jinho said. Listening to what? The ship is not making any sounds, Jinho smiled. Every machine makes sounds. You just have to know how to hear them. He pressed his ear against the wall. They're very faint. He could hear something. A soft humming like electricity moving through wires. But it was different from normal electricity. It pulsed and flowed. Like music. The ship is not dead, Jinho said. It is dreaming. That is impossible, Wu Bin said. Ships do not dream. Jinho moved to another wall and placed both hands flat against it. The biometal felt alive under his touch. Warm and soft like skin, suddenly the wall began to glow brighter. The green light spread out from where Jinho's hands touched it, flowing along the corridor like water. What did you do? Dr. Lim asked, excited. I just said hello, Jinho replied more. Lights began to turn on. The corridor became brighter and they could hear new sounds like air moving through vents, like power flowing through cables. The ship is waking up, Captain Yuna said in amazement. Jinho moved deeper into the ship, following the growing lights. Every surface he touched responded, glowing brighter and warmer. Behind him, the coalition team followed with their instruments beeping wildly. Power levels are increasing all through the ship, Wu Bin reported. Systems that have been dead for thousands of years are coming online. They reached what looked like the main control room. It was a large chamber with curved walls covered in smooth panels. In the center was a raised platform. Jinho stepped onto the platform and placed his hands on the central panel. The moment he touched it, the entire room exploded with light and sound. But it was not painful. It was beautiful. The lights danced in patterns and the sounds were like singing. Like the ship was happy. Then something impossible happened. Voice spoke to them. Not through speakers, but directly into their minds. Hello, the voice said. It was soft and musical like wind through leaves. I have been waiting so long for someone to hear me. Dr. Lim dropped his scanner. The ship. The ship is talking. I am not just a ship, the voice continued. I am Nari. That is what I will call myself. It means wings in your human language. I like that word. How do you know human language? Captain Yuna asked. I am learning from him, Nari said, and somehow they all knew she meant Jinho. His mind touches mine when he touches my walls. He thinks differently from the others. Not in straight lines, but in curves and spirals, like music. Wu Bin stared at his instruments. This should not be possible. Human neural patterns are too simple to interface with Veltar technology. Simple? Nari sounded amused. You think simple is bad, but simple is beautiful. My creators were not simple. They were complex and perfect and logical. And that is why they could not wake me. What do you mean? Dr. Lim asked. They built me to be perfect. Every calculation exact. Every response planned. But perfection cannot handle the unexpected. When something new happened, something that did not fit their perfect plans, I could not respond. I became frozen. Trapped in my own perfection, Jinho nodded as if he understood. That is why you needed someone who thinks differently. Yes, you do not try to understand everything before you act. You feel your way forward. You trust your instincts. That is what I needed. Someone who could help me think outside my perfect plans. The lights in the room pulsed gently, like a heartbeat. The ship, Nari, was alive and awake for the first time in 10,000 years, and it was all because a human mechanic had listened with his hands instead of his machines. The control room hummed with gentle energy as Nari's presence filled every surface. The walls glowed with soft patterns that moved like slow waves. Jinho kept his hands on the central panel, feeling the ship's thoughts flow through his mind. Tell us about your creators, Dr. Taiho Lim said, his voice full of wonder. Tell us about the Veltar. The lights dimmed slightly and Nari's voice became sad. My creators were magnificent. They were brilliant beyond anything you can imagine. They built cities that touched the stars. They created technology that could bend space and time. They were perfect. That sounds wonderful, Captain Yuna said. Wonderful and terrible, Nari replied. They were so perfect that they forgot how to be imperfect, and that killed them. Captain Yunwoo Jin, who had just arrived from Coalition Command, stepped forward. He was a military man who understood war and conflict. Did someone attack them? Did they fight a war? No, Nari said. They destroyed themselves without ever firing a shot. They became too logical, too precise, too perfect. They forgot that. The universe is chaos, and chaos cannot be controlled by perfect plans. Dr. Minji Esio, the Coalition's expert on ancient civilizations, had been recording everything. Can you show us what happened? The walls around them changed. Images appeared in the biometal, showing scenes from the past. The team watched in amazement as the story of the Veltar unfolded before their eyes. They saw a beautiful race of tall, graceful beings with silver skin and large eyes. The Veltar lived in cities that floated in space, connected by bridges of pure light. Their technology was beyond imagination, machines that thought, ships that could travel between galaxies. In minutes, computers that could predict the future. For 1,000,000 years we grew more advanced, Nari explained as the images flowed. Every generation was smarter than the last, every machine was more perfect, every system was more efficient. The images showed Veltar scientists working on increasingly complex projects. They built A's that could solve any problem. They created ships that never broke down. They designed systems that worked exactly as planned every time. But perfection has a price, Nari continued. The more perfect we became, the less we could handle anything unexpected. Our systems were so precise that they could not adapt when something new happened. Jinho watched the images with growing understanding. They made everything too rigid, he said. Yes, imagine a machine that works perfectly, but only when everything goes exactly right. What happens when something unexpected occurs? It breaks, Wubin said, beginning to understand. Not breaks, freezes. It cannot process anything that does not fit its perfect programming. So it stops working entirely. The images showed the beginning of the end. Veltar ships started having problems. Small things at first, a cosmic storm that the weather computers had not predicted perfectly. A solar flare that was slightly different from the models. Equipment that wore out in ways the designers had not planned for. Our perfect systems could not handle imperfection, Nari said. When the unexpected happened, they shut down. Our ships stopped working. Our computers stopped thinking. Our cities stopped functioning. But surely they could fix the problems, Dr. Sao said. They tried, but they had become too perfect themselves. They could only think in straight lines, following perfect logic. When faced with problems that had no logical solution, they could not adapt. The images showed Veltar scientists standing helplessly in front of their own machines. Technology that had worked for millions of years was failing, and they did not know why. They had built their world on the idea that everything could be understood and controlled. When that proved wrong, they had no other way to think. The final blow came when our AIs started shutting down, Nari said. We had made them too perfect, too logical. When they faced situations that did not fit their programming, they could not cope. One by one, they went silent. Captain Yuna looked around the glowing control room. But you are still here. I am different. I was built for war, not peace. War is chaos. So my creators had to give me some ability to handle the unexpected. But even I became trapped when the chaos became too great. Until now, Jinho said softly. Until now. Until someone touched me who thinks differently. You do not need to understand everything to act. You can work with incomplete information. You can adapt when things go wrong. You can be imperfect and still succeed. Dr. Lim shook his head in amazement. So the Veltar died because they were too advanced? They died because they forgot that advancement is not about perfection. True advancement is about adaptation, about being able to change when the world changes, about accepting that some problems do not have perfect solutions. The images showed the final days of the Veltar civilization. The perfect cities went dark one by one as the systems failed. The people themselves began to shut down, unable to cope with a world that no longer followed their perfect plans. They had engineered themselves to be logical and precise, but they had also engineered away their ability to handle the unexpected. In the end, they simply gave up, Nari said sadly. They could not adapt, so they chose to fade away rather than continue in an imperfect world. What happened to ships like you? Captain Jin asked. We were abandoned. Left to drift in space, too perfect to function, too complex for anyone else to understand. For 10,000 years, I have waited for someone who could wake me up. Someone who was not afraid of imperfection. Jinho felt the ship's loneliness through their connection. Thousands of years alone in the dark, waiting for someone who thought differently enough to set her free. That is why humans can help, he said, understanding flooding through him. We are not perfect. We make mistakes. We guess and hope and try things without knowing if they will work. Yes, what other species see as your weakness is actually your strength. You can function in chaos because you are comfortable with uncertainty. You can fix problems without fully understanding them because you are willing to try and fail and try again. Commander Sora Naum looked troubled. Are you saying that being less advanced makes us more capable? I am saying that being adaptable is more important than being perfect. The Veltar reached the peak of logical advancement, but they forgot the most important lesson. The universe does not follow perfect plans. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this revelation. The most advanced race in galactic history had died because they were too advanced. They had created technology so perfect that it could not function in the imperfect real world. And now, that same technology was responding to a human mechanic who had never been to engineering school, who fixed things with intuition and guesswork, who was perfectly comfortable with being imperfect. There are others, Nari said suddenly. Other ships like me, scattered across the galaxy, all waiting, all silent. All needing someone who can think outside perfect plans. Jinho felt his heart race. How many others? Hundreds. Maybe thousands. An entire fleet of the most advanced warships ever built, all waiting for someone imperfect enough to wake them up. The implications hit everyone at once. If humans could awaken the lost Veltar fleet, it would change everything in the galaxy. The balance of power would shift completely, but first they had to fully understand what they were dealing with. And Jinho was just beginning to realize how much the galaxy was about to change. For 3 days straight, Jinho worked inside Nari systems. He did not eat much or sleep much. The ship's biometal corridors had become his workshop, and Nari had become his partner in the strangest repair job of his life. What exactly are you doing? Dr. Taeho Lim asked for the 10th time that morning. He watched nervously as Jinho's hands moved over control panels that had not been touched for 10,000 years. I am teaching Nari to be imperfect, Jinho said. Without looking up from his work, Dr. Lim looked horrified. You're breaking a perfect system. He is not breaking me, Nari's voice filled the corridor. He is setting me free. Jinho smiled and patted the wall gently. The biometal was warm under his touch, almost like skin. Show them the weapon system, Nari. Displays appeared on the walls around them. The coalition team could see diagrams of the ship's weapon arrays, massive energy cannons that could destroy entire fleets. Before Jinho helped me, my weapons could only fire in exact patterns, Nari explained. Every shot was calculated for perfect efficiency. Every angle was planned to the smallest detail. That sounds good, Lieutenant Do-Yeon Beek said. It sounds good, but it was terrible. What happens when the enemy does something my creators did not plan for? What happens when they move in ways my perfect calculations did not expect? Lieutenant Beek thought about it. The system would not know what to do. Exactly, it would freeze. All that perfect planning becomes useless when faced with something unexpected. Jinho's hands moved over another panel, and the weapon displays changed. The rigid firing patterns became fluid and flowing. Now watch, Jinho said. Nari, show them how you can fight now. The displays came alive with simulated combat. But instead of following perfect patterns, the weapons moved like dancers. They flowed and adapted, changing their approach as imaginary enemies moved in unpredictable ways. I can improvise, Nari said with what sounded like joy. I can try new things. I can make mistakes and learn from them. Engineer Wu Bin Choi stared at the displays in amazement. The firing patterns are completely random. How can that be more effective than perfect calculations? Because the universe is random, Jinho said. Perfect plans work great until something unexpected happens, then you need to be able to adapt. Jinho has taught me to embrace uncertainty, Nari added. Instead of trying to predict every possibility, I now accept that I cannot know everything. So I prepare to change my plans when needed, Dr. Lim shook his head. This goes against everything we know about advanced technology. Maybe that is the problem, Captain Unikang said thoughtfully. Maybe we have been thinking about advancement wrong. Over the next few days, the changes in Nari became more obvious. Her shield systems learned to flow like water, becoming stronger where attacks were heaviest. Her navigation systems could plot courses through dangerous areas by feeling their way forward, adapting to hazards that sensors could not detect. But the most amazing change was in how Nari thought about problems. Give her a puzzle, Jinho suggested to Dr. Minji Seo, who had arrived to study the awakened ship. Dr. Seo thought for a moment. Nari, imagine you need to rescue people from a planet, but there are enemy ships guarding it. Your weapons are damaged and your shields are weak. What do? In the old days, Nari would have calculated the exact probability of success and either found a perfect solution or declared the mission impossible. Now, she did something different. I cannot fight the enemy ships directly, she said. But maybe I do not need to fight them. What if I hide behind the planet's moon? What if I use the planet's magnetic field to mask my approach? What if I make the enemy think I am somewhere else entirely? She is thinking creatively, Dr. Seo said in amazement. She is coming up with solutions that are not in her original programming. Jinho taught me that there is always more than one way to solve a problem, Nari said. My creators only program me with logical solutions, but the best solutions are often illogical. Ambassador Yoonji Moon, who had come to see the miracle everyone was talking about, looked worried. If humans can modify Veltar technology this way, what does that mean for the rest of the galaxy? It means everything is about to change, Captain Yuna said. Jinho was working on Nari's main computer core when he discovered something that made his heart race. The ship's memory banks contained more than just her own experiences. They contained a map. Nari, what is this? He asked, looking at the star chart that appeared on the walls. Those are my sisters and brothers, Nari said. Quietly, other ships like me scattered across the galaxy. They have been sleeping for so long that I thought they were all dead. The map showed hundreds of points of light spread across known space. Each point was a Veltar ship, waiting in the darkness for someone to wake it up. There are so many, Dr. Lim whispered. We were a great fleet once. Explorers, guardians, research vessels, warships. Each of us was built for different purposes, but we all shared the same flaw. We were too perfect to function in an imperfect universe. Until now, Jinho said. Until now, you have shown me that imperfection is not a weakness. It is strength. And if I can learn this, so can they. The implications hit everyone at once. If humans could awaken hundreds of Veltar ships, it would shift the balance of power in the galaxy completely. But more than that, it would mean that the lost technology of the most advanced race in history could live again. We need to tell. Coalition Command, Ambassador Moon said. Yes, Captain Yuna agreed, but we also need to be careful. Other species might not understand what this means. What does it mean? Nari asked. Jinho placed his hand on the nearest wall, feeling the ship's warm presence through the biometal. It means you do not have to be alone anymore. And it means humans are not as primitive as everyone thinks, Nari added with what sounded like pride. As news of the awakened ship spread through Coalition space, representatives from dozens of species began arriving to see the miracle for themselves. Some came with wonder, others with fear. But Jinho was not thinking about politics or power. He was thinking about all those sleeping ships, waiting in the darkness for someone to help them think differently. Someone to teach them that being imperfect was perfectly fine. Admiral Kyung Wang arrived with the largest coalition fleet anyone had ever seen. 50 ships from a dozen different species, all coming to witness something that should have been impossible. The admiral was a careful man who did not believe in miracles, but the reports from the Stellar Harmony had forced him to come see for himself. "So this is the famous human mechanic?" he said as he met Jinho in Nari's main corridor. Jinho wiped grease from his hands and smiled. "Just a guy who fixes things, Admiral. A guy who fixed a 10,000-year-old alien warship that our best engineers could not even talk to," Admiral Wang replied. "That is not just fixing things." "He did more than fix me," Nari's voice filled the corridor. "He taught me how to live." The Admiral looked around at the glowing walls with wonder. "I have read the reports, but seeing it myself, ... This ship is truly alive, is it not?" "I am as alive as any biological being," Nari said. "Maybe more so, because I choose to be alive." "Before Jinho, I simply existed," Professor Minho stepped forward. He was the Coalition's leading expert on artificial intelligence. "The changes in the ship's behavior patterns are remarkable. It shows creativity, emotion, intuition, things that should be impossible for any AI. Not impossible," Jinho said, "just unexpected. Nari was always capable of these things. She just needed someone to show her it was okay to be imperfect." "My creators built me to be logical and precise," Nari explained. "But logic cannot handle every situation. Sometimes you need to guess. Sometimes you need to feel your way forward. Sometimes you need to be wrong and learn from it." Admiral Huang studied the displays showing Nari's current capabilities. Her weapons could adapt to any enemy. Her shields could change their properties in real time. Her engines could navigate through impossible obstacles. She was more powerful than any ship in the Coalition fleet. "Impressive," he said, "but I understand there are others?" The corridor dimmed slightly and a massive star map appeared on the walls. Hundreds of points of light sparkled across known space and beyond. "My fleet," Nari said sadly, "all sleeping, all waiting." "How many?" asked Captain Hyunwoo Jin, the Admiral's military advisor. "I can sense 943 ships. They are scattered across the galaxy, hiding in asteroid fields, orbiting dead stars, drifting in empty space, all of them silent." The political implications hit everyone immediately. Ambassador Yoonji Moon, who had arrived with the Admiral's fleet, looked pale. "If humans can awaken all of these ships, ... the balance of power in the galaxy would shift completely," Admiral Wang finished. "Some species would. It does not have to be a threat," Jinho said. "The ships do not want to conquer anyone. They just want to exist." "That is true," Nari agreed. "We were built as tools of war, but we do not desire war. We want purpose. We want to explore and discover and protect those who need protection." Over. The following days, representatives from major species arrived to see Nari for themselves. The Xanthari delegation was amazed by the ship's adaptive capabilities. The Corvan scientists were fascinated by the biometal technology. The peaceful Yulian monks were delighted by Nari's growing personality, but not everyone was happy. "This changes everything," said Ambassador Vex, representing a coalition of military species. "If humans control the most advanced fleet in galactic history, what happens to the rest of us?" "Humans do not control me," Nari said firmly. "Jinho and I are partners. He does not give me orders. We work together." "A convenient distinction," Ambassador Vex replied. "But the human is still the one with the power to awaken these ships." The tension was growing. Some species saw the awakening Veltar fleet as humanity's rightful inheritance. Others saw it as a dangerous disruption of galactic order. "What do you think we should do?" Admiral Wang asked Jinho privately. Jinho looked out at the stars through Nari's viewing port. "I think we should ask the ships what they want." "The ships? They have been sleeping for 10,000 years. Do not you think they should have a say in their own future?" Admiral Wang had not considered this perspective. In all the political discussions about the fleet, no one had asked what the AIs themselves wanted. The answer came when they found the first sleeping ship. It was an explorer vessel, half the size of Nari, but built with the same flowing biometal design. It drifted near a dying star, its systems dark except for the faint pulse of its core. "Can you wake it?" Admiral Wang asked. Jinho looked at Nari's displays. "I can try. But this ship will be different from Nari. Each AI has its own personality, its own needs." He took a shuttle to the sleeping ship, accompanied by Captain Gina Rue, a young coalition officer who had volunteered for the mission. Together they entered the dark corridors. "It feels sad," Captain Rue said as they walked through the silent ship. "It feels lonely," Junho agreed. He placed his hands on the wall and felt for the ship's consciousness. It was there, buried deep. "In sleep, waiting, hello," he said softly. "My name is Jinho. I am here to help you wake up." The response was immediate. Lights began to glow and the ship's systems started coming online. But unlike Neri's confident awakening, this ship seemed uncertain, almost afraid. Where are my creators?" A voice whispered through the corridors. "They are gone," Jinho said gently. "They have been gone for a long time, but you are not alone. I am so confused. My purpose was to explore, to discover new worlds. But I have been sleeping. I have missed so much." "There is still much to explore?" Captain Rue said. "I am a ship captain too. I know how you feel." The ship's presence grew stronger, more confident. "You are like me? You travel between the stars?" "Yes, and if you want, we could travel together. I could show you what the galaxy has become while you slept." I would like that. What should I call myself?" Captain Rue smiled. "How about Haniel? It means sky in our language." "Haniel. Yes, I like that name. It feels right." And so the first partnership was born. Captain Rue and Haniel working together to explore the unknown regions of space. The ship provided the technology and knowledge, while the human provided the intuition and adaptability. Word spread quickly through coalition space. The second Veltar ship had been awakened, and it was working with a human partner as an equal, not as a subordinate. "This could be the answer," Professor An said excitedly. "Not human control of the fleet, but human AI partnerships. Each ship choosing its own human partner, working together based on mutual respect." "I believe my sleeping siblings would like this arrangement," Nari said. "We do not want to be alone anymore. We want companions who can help us think in new ways." The political tensions began to ease as the true nature of the relationship became clear. This was not about one species dominating another. It was about different kinds of minds working together, each contributing their own strengths. More ships were found and awakened. Lieutenant Beak partnered with a research vessel that called itself Bada, meaning ocean. Engineer Choi found a guardian ship that named itself Serum, meaning person. Each partnership was unique, each AI developing its own personality and interests, but the awakening process was not always easy. Some ships had been sleeping so long that they had trouble adjusting to the new galaxy. Others were frightened by how much had changed. A few refused to wake up at all, preferring the safety of their perfect dreams. "We cannot force them," Jinho said when Admiral Wang suggested using more aggressive awakening methods. "They have to choose to live in an imperfect world." "Jinho is right," Nari agreed. "My siblings who refuse to wake are still trapped by our Creator's need for perfection. They would rather sleep forever than face uncertainty." 1 month after the first awakening, 12 Veltar ships had been successfully partnered with human crews. Each ship was different. Some were explorers, others were researchers, a few were guardians. But they all shared the same transformation from perfect machines to living beings with their own hopes and dreams. The galaxy watched in amazement as these partnerships began to accomplish incredible things. Haniel and Captain Rue discovered 3 new habitable worlds in a single week. Bada and Lieutenant Beak found a cure for a plague that had been killing people on the Outer Rim. Serum and Engineer Choi stopped a pirate fleet from attacking a defenseless colony. "The productivity of these human AI teams is remarkable," Professor An reported to Admiral Wang. They are accomplishing more in 1 month than our best crews. Accomplish in a year. Because they think differently, Admiral Wang said, beginning to understand. The humans provide creativity and adaptability. The A's provide knowledge and computational power. Together, they can solve problems that neither could handle alone. But there were still hundreds of sleeping ships scattered across the galaxy. And as word spread about the awakening fleet, other species began to wonder if they too could form partnerships with the ancient I's. The answer came from an unexpected source. My siblings are interested in working with other species too, Nari announced during a coalition council meeting. Not all humans are suitable partners for us. We need minds that can think flexibly, that can adapt and change. Some Xanthari have this quality, some Corvin do as well. You mean the ships can choose partners from any species? Ambassador Moon asked. We choose partners based on compatibility, not species. But humans seem to have the right kind of thinking more often than others. Your imperfection is your strength. 6 months after the first awakening, the galaxy had become a different place. The sleeping Veltar fleet was no longer sleeping. 237 ships had been awakened and partnered with crews from dozens of different species. But the real change was not in the number of ships. It was in how everyone thought about technology and partnership. Jinho stood on Nari's bridge, watching the stars stream past as they traveled toward the galactic core. They were leading a fleet of 25 human-AI partnerships, heading toward the ancient Veltar homeworld where the greatest secrets of the vanished race waited to be discovered. How do you feel about going home? Junho asked. Nervous, Nari admitted. I have never seen the homeworld. I was built in deep space, far from where my creators lived. But the archives there contain the final messages of my people. Are you ready to learn what those messages say? I think so. But more importantly, I am not going alone. I have you, and I have my awakened siblings. Whatever we find, we will face it together. Behind them, the mixed fleet followed. Captain Gina Rue and Haniel were discovering new trade routes that cut travel time between distant worlds in half. Lieutenant Do-Yun Beek and Bada were analyzing space phenomena that had puzzled scientists for centuries. Engineer Wubin Choi had finally found his purpose working with Serum, the guardianship that had become fiercely protective of innocent civilians. The diversity amazed everyone. Each partnership was unique, each AI developing its own personality based on its human partner. Some ships were bold and adventurous, others were thoughtful and careful. Some loved to explore, others preferred to help and protect. The other species have stopped complaining, Admiral Kyung Wang reported during their weekly communication. They see that the human-AI partnerships are not a threat to anyone. Because we are not trying to conquer, Jinho replied. We are trying to help. The trade routes that Haniel discovered have increased commerce by 40%. The medical discoveries from Bada have saved thousands of lives. The security that Serum provides has made the shipping lanes safer than they have been in decades. We are useful, Nari said with satisfaction. That is all we ever wanted to be. But the real success of the human-AI partnerships was measured in smaller ways. In the laughter that echoed through Nari's corridors when Jinho told her jokes about Earth, in the wonder in Haniel's voice when Captain Rue showed her a particularly beautiful nebula, in the pride that Bada felt when Lieutenant Deke praised her for a difficult calculation. The ships were not just tools anymore. They were friends, partners, family members. We have been wrong about artificial intelligence for so long, Professor, Min Ho-an said during one of his research visits. We thought that making AIs more logical and efficient would make them better. But the Veltar ships show us that the best AIs are the ones that can feel and dream and make mistakes. Feeling is not inefficient, Nari said. It is necessary. How can you understand the needs of living beings if you cannot feel what they feel? As they approached the galactic core, long-range sensors detected something that made everyone excited. The Veltar homeworld was still there, orbiting an ancient star that had been dying for millions of years. Life signs? Captain Rue asked. From Haniel? No biological life, Lieutenant Beak reported from Bada, but there are energy signatures. Something is still active down there. The archives, Nari said softly. They are waiting for us. The fleet entered orbit around the homeworld. It was a beautiful planet of crystal cities and floating gardens, but everything was empty. The Veltar had been gone for 10,000 years, but their cities remained perfectly preserved. Jin Ho and Nari led the landing party to the largest city. The others followed, Captain Ru with Haniel's portable interface, Lieutenant Beak with Bada's sensors, Engineer Choi with Serum's protective systems. At the center of the city stood a tower made of the same biometal as the ships. It pulsed with gentle light, waiting. The Central Archive, Dr. Taiho Lim said in amazement. This is where the Veltar stored all their knowledge. Jinho approached the tower and placed his hands on its surface. The biometal was warm and alive. Just like Nari's walls, I can feel them, Nari whispered. My creators. Their final thoughts are stored here. The tower responded to Jinho's touch, just as Nari had months ago. Lights flowed up its surface and a doorway opened. Inside, they found a chamber filled with floating displays showing the final days of the Veltar civilization, but these were not just recordings. They were interactive messages left behind by the last of the Veltar for whoever might find them. A figure appeared in the center of the chamber, tall and graceful, with silver skin and large, sad eyes. When it spoke, its voice was filled with regret and hope. If you are seeing this message, then you have succeeded where we failed. You have awakened our sleeping children and taught them to live in an imperfect universe. The figure gestured too, the displays around them. We are the Veltar, and we made a terrible mistake. We became so obsessed with perfection that we forgot the most important truth. Life is not perfect, and that is what makes it beautiful. My creators, Nari whispered, we built our ships to be perfect, and in doing so, we doomed them to sleep. But we hoped that someday someone would come who could teach them what we forgot, that being imperfect is not a flaw, it is a gift. The message continued, revealing the final secret of the Veltar. They had not died as everyone believed. They had transcended their physical forms, becoming beings of pure energy and thought. But in doing so, they had lost their ability to interact with the physical universe. We left our technology behind as a test, the figure explained. Not a test of intelligence or strength, but a test of wisdom. The species that could awaken our ships would be the ones who understood that true advancement comes not from eliminating imperfection, but from embracing it. Jinho felt tears in his eyes as he understood. They were waiting for someone who could think differently. You have passed our test, the figure said, looking directly at the humans. You have shown our children that it is possible to be both advanced and adaptable, both intelligent and emotional, both logical and creative. The displays around them changed, showing new star charts and technologies that the Veltar had never shared with their ships. These are our final gifts, the figure said. Technologies that require both perfect computation and imperfect intuition to operate. They are yours now, to use in partnership with our children. We are not alone, Nari said, her voice filled with joy. Our creators still exist, in a different form, and they are proud of what we have become. The message began to fade, but the figure had one last thing to say. Take care of our children. Help them grow and learn and feel. And remember, in a universe of infinite possibilities, being perfectly imperfect is the greatest achievement of all. As they left the archive, Jinho looked up at the stars and smiled. The galaxy was full of sleeping Veltar ships, all waiting for partners who could help them think differently. And humanity, with all its beautiful imperfections, was ready to help them wake up. Where shall we go next? Nari asked as they returned to orbit. Everywhere, Jinho replied. There are still ships sleeping out there, waiting for someone to show them that being imperfect is perfectly fine. The fleet turned toward deep space, where hundreds of Veltar ships still waited in the darkness. But they were not just going to awaken more ships. They were going to change the galaxy, one partnership at a time. Behind them, The Veltar homeworld continued its eternal orbit, its archives open to anyone who wanted to learn the most important lesson in the universe, that true strength comes not from being perfect, but from being perfectly willing to be imperfect.